90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
The following radio program has been approved for broadcast by the Federal Communications Commission and is in compliance with all community standards. Thank you.
From Los Angeles,
The Gary Harrison Files. Crack the code and break the lock. Racing shadows round the clock. We're the ones to find the truth for all the lost and hurtless youth. Yeah, we'll find the truth. The Gary Harrison Files.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
And it is the Gary Harrison Files. Welcome. Glad to have you here, as always. A big one today. I mean, wouldn't it be fun just to talk about cooking tips or road rage, like it was 1 year ago, but different time, different era, different emergencies. Live streaming right now, by the way, on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Gary Harrison Substack or YouTube. And that way we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us at kpfk.net. That's the video stream, kpfk.net. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com, C-A-R-Y, caryharrison.com. There you're going to get a transcript of this entire show, plus access to clips and stuff that we cannot do on the radio anymore, as you know. And that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. By the way, we have a new text line, your Harrison text line, and been getting a lot of really brilliant comments. I have to say how much I love this audience. It is a panoply of geniuses. And that's 310-737-TALK. 310-737-TALK. Well, patriots, taxpayers, and the taxpayer adjacent. Today, I'm going to tell you what's actually happening while the Republic drops its drawers in public and calls it governance. I come bearing glad tidings of tremendous joy because you and I are living through nothing less than the apex of Western civilization, the pinnacle, the full erection of the American dream, so to speak, towering, untethered, and pointing in whatever direction the wind decides to blow. You want to know where the entire membership of this administration is living right now? Go ahead, sit down, take a breath, maybe crack a beer at this hour, because this kind of civics lesson, they never taught you in school, and now you're going to understand why. Our leadership, bless their hardened little hearts, has moved on to military bases. You're scratching your head. Oops, toupee. Put it back on. There we go. The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, senior officials of the most powerful government on the surface of this spinning ball of dirt, they have moved in to Army housing. And not just one or two of them. Nope. Marco's got a bunk. Pete's got a bunk. Pam's presumably got a canopy bed and a ring light. Stephen Miller's in the corner doing whatever Stephen Miller does when no one's watching, which is presumably the same thing he does when someone is watching, only quieter. And what you might want to know is the official reason. Threats, you see, threats from cartels, from foreign adversaries, from protesters. Yep, the ones that are right in our own country. Protesters. Little Jill, 18 years old, holding a poster on the side of the road. It's just out of control. Now you might be tempted to say, but Carrie, These are the most powerful people on earth. They command armies. They command nuclear arsenals and the ability to freeze your bank account for posting the wrong meme. What exactly are they hiding from? And that, my fellow mugwump, is precisely the question. Why would government officials retreat to military fortifications in a democracy? See, you're not appreciating the elegance of this. You Philistines, you, and me probably too, you ungrateful electorate. This isn't a bunker, it's branding. This is lifestyle curation for the governing class. It's Fort McNair, not a retreat, an executive wellness compound with better fence linings. Think about it from a real estate perspective, which is frankly the only perspective our leadership has ever understood. You've got 24-hour security. You've got no mortgage, military chefs, and the kind of neighbors who won't borrow your lawnmower because they have access to actual tanks. This is the American dream. You've been out here paying HOA fees, and these people figured out how to make the taxpayer be the HOA. And while they're nestling in, cozy as ticks in a slobbering spaniel, let's talk about the moral ecosystem they've cultivated, because it's rich, it's lavish, it's a full biodiversity event of ethical compost. Meanwhile, the first son-in-law, a man whose primary qualification for Middle East diplomacy appears to be that he simply married into it. And he continues to negotiate peace deals with one hand and personal investment portfolios with the other. The same governments. Now, if that were a dating profile, it'd read, seeks sovereign wealth funds, flexible on terms, family-oriented. And our Customs and Border Protection is now partnering with the online advertising industry to track your precise physical movements in real time. Through your things like your fitness app or your dating app. I don't know which dating app you use, but let's face it, if you're male, that's probably geared toward something or other. So they're interested in that probably on 10 different levels. Your video game, you're being tracked real time, your location through your video game, all of it. Potentially a little GPS ankle bracelet that you paid $2.99 for that app, and you downloaded it, the best part, voluntarily. ICE, already ahead of CPB on this. ICE, I like saying it. ICE has filled documents explicitly asking for more ad tech data, not less, more. So just to recap the State of the Union, the cabinet lives in a fort. Pardons go to the highest bidder. The first son-in-law is running a parallel foreign policy from his investment desk. The surveillance state is monetizing your Tinder profile. And CBS News has fewer viewers than a regional bowling tournament. Now, this ain't a crisis. This is a masterwork. And clearly, we just don't have the sophistication to appreciate it. It's what we're being told. So my guest today is a man whose work inspired every delicious, infuriating, jaw-dropping revelation in today's monologue. Investigative journalist, founder of Who, What, Why, and a man who clearly hasn't slept soundly since approximately 2015. Russ Baker, welcome to the Carrie Harrison Files.
Hey, Carrie, great to be here.
Good to have you here, my friend. Let's just jump right on into it. When a Harvard professor says that government officials living on military bases is something that you, quote, never see in a democracy, is he being politely academic, or is he actually screaming internally?
He's definitely screaming internally. Those things always are a few degrees cooler than the actual person's temperature. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy situation. It kind of amazes me that, I mean, this has gotten some attention, but it hasn't gotten a lot of attention. And you could just imagine, if Obama and his cabinet had all moved onto a military base, I mean, the whole country would be basically frozen over this thing. And yet now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I hadn't heard, and of course they said they had to do it for security reasons. Nobody really thought to ask, well, what are those? And as you pointed out, there are a range of possibilities. But now they're at war with Iran, so probably some of your listeners are thinking, well, they moved. Not only think about this: the Secretary of Defense is in military housing, the Secretary of State is in military housing, the Attorney General is in military housing, Stephen Miller is in military housing, Russell Vought. I mean, most people don't even know who he is, but he's the guy behind practically everything that's going on, the architect, if you will. He's in military housing. It's like having, Martin Bormann, somebody, in there. And others, others are inquiring or shopping as to the opportunities there. But as I was starting to say, this didn't just happen because of Iran. This started back in, I think, October. The first of them started moving in. And a bunch of things have happened. You probably know, Pam Bondi's neighbors don't like her. And, they've sort of been drawing in chalk on the, maybe you saw that, they've been drawing on chalk on the cement, and it upsets the Bondis or whatever. And, Tulsi Gabbard is another one. They're all feeling very, very oppressed right now. And one of the issues I raise, Carrie, in my piece on our site, Who, What, Why, is that there are a whole bunch of possible reasons why they're doing this. And it is not likely to be all safety. And I have to say, because I don't know if you want to get to this later or not, but I have some suspicions about where this may all be headed.
Well, I think that's a great pivot point into that. I was going to lead there is like, what's the point? When a king moves into a castle, when he builds a castle, it means that the serfs are not allowed in. It means that the people, any people, except the courtiers that are invited for din-din, they get to cross the drawbridge. The drawbridge is pulled up. Nobody, not know how, as the Cowardly Lion would say, gets to come in. There's a reason one walls one's self up.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of their main concerns is that they're doing things that are increasingly going to cause the American public itself to be up in arms. They can't be ignorant of that as they talk about all kinds of things that are anti-democratic, and as they talk about how they can basically steal the next election. And of course, if that's what they're preparing to do, they know there's going to be a reaction, and they don't feel comfortable being amongst the rest of us.
So, Russ Baker, we know that that's the plan. It's in Project 2025 in more elegant language, but we've been told right from the White House, we're going to do this. The Save America Act, just every possible way of vote suppression. It's so right in front of you right now. That is the plan. It is the only way to stay in power forever and ever. Amen. Like Vladimir Putin, where you get to have a 36-year term, which happens to be the entire span of the rest of your lifetime. It's a coincidence. Of course, nobody ever did the math or thought about it for more than 3 minutes, as the sarcasm just leaks out and splashes on your ankle, Russ Baker. Here we are looking at that. There will always be a third of this country that thinks it's great. Whatever they want to do, it's to help that third of the country. The rest of us, 70%, are not going to love it. Storming the Bastille, I mean, I don't see the public doing that. But if the courts aren't going to do anything, I suppose they think that's what the public would end up having to do.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. The military, and I've written a few columns about this, the military is in an awkward position because I don't think in American history it's ever faced a situation quite like now where it is, it has to follow orders. I mean, that's its job. And the question is what happens when the orders are really, really bad? They're really bad for democracy. They're really bad for American interests. What happens if the person issuing the orders has problems with his sanity? where extreme corruption is the primary factor at the top of the government. What does the military do? So far, they continue to follow orders, really, as do the other departments, whatever it is, the Justice Department, ICE, and so on. They're following all kinds of orders that judges are saying are not good, but they're following them. And so where's this all going to go? I mean, that really is the conversation we need to be having in this country. I don't think we're having it. I don't think the media are really having this conversation. They're comfortable with the conversation. Frankly, I don't think our elected officials are quite yet having this conversation.
Carrie Harrison with you. This is the Carrie Harrison Files, carrieharrison.com and goharrison.com. Live video streaming on YouTube, Substack, anything with a chip and a signal, including Instagram, or a video shortcut at kpfk.net. You can listen later as a podcast across every service. Simply Google Carrie Harrison or the Carrie Harrison Files. Our newsletter with a transcript of this entire show, including every phoneme uttered by the great Russ Baker, will be on there. Stuff also we simply cannot say on the radio is at Carrie, C-A-R-Y, Harrison.com or goharrison.com. We're talking to Russ Baker, investigative journalist, founder of Who, What, Why, one of the few people in America who's been asking the uncomfortable questions long before uncomfortable became the only questions left to ask. We're talking about Fort McNair. We're talking about pay-to-play pardons. We'll get to that in a second. Surveillance infrastructure, the slow motion collapse of institutional press, and what it all looks like from the vantage point of a journalist who's been watching the architecture of power for decades. And Russ Baker, you were mentioning the media and how it is the responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. We take CBS News, CBS now at large, partly owned by the White House. I mean, boy, there's a separation of power and lack of interest whatsoever in what's being put on there. We have a guy, we have Ellison, we have Barry Weiss, we have the canceling of CBS Radio. That's what took me to Chicago. Long story there, but that's gone. You filed live from Eastern Europe when the Berlin Wall came down on there. What's your honest assessment of what's left of institutional American journalism? And does it have the structural capacity to cover what's actually happening right now?
I think A, it doesn't, and B, it was never really set up for this kind of a crisis. You know this probably from your own experience, but, and I've dealt with CBS. I've done work for 60 Minutes and other entities, and, lots of good work being done, has been done, but it was always a big corporation. And it always was very much part of the establishment, and it was tough to get stories approved. That was back in the good old days. That was in the good old days. It was really, really hard to get very, very bold stories on the air. Just imagine what it's like now under the Ellisons. So I think what we're looking at, Carrie, is places like CBS and a lot of these other entities that are merging. We see these mergers now, the Tegna merger, all these local stations and so on. Mergers, takeovers by tech bros and mega billionaires. And it's all headed in one direction. And of course, all of those people have other interests in front of what? The White House. And so they've got to play ball with those people if they don't want their own businesses shut down. It is a perilous state of affairs. And obviously, people like yourself and your show, independent media of all kinds, are more important than ever. We have to be thinking about alternative platforms, by the way, distribution, because I have a feeling a lot of the infrastructure, I don't know what tubes this show goes through, but we have to even think about those tubes. Is there a way for us to buy and own independent mechanisms for distribution itself? So distribution as well as the broadcasters have to be in the hands of the people.
Wow, that's a giant wedding cake of thinking in a bagel of what's being handed to us and told is available right now. But you're absolutely right. We just got a comment on the YouTube stream of this show right here live. And there it is. I think most people didn't realize the real power of executive orders and how fast someone could reverse everything. Biggest problem throughout history, human beings. And that's how they see us. The biggest problems, giant ticks swarming the beautiful fur of their luxurious existence.
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about our betters. Those who are supposedly better educated and smarter and more successful than the rest of us. And of course, and I am fortunate. I get an opportunity to hobnob with all kinds of people, and I get to meet some of these masters of the universe, and you get to know them. And a lot of them aren't really bad people, but they're just sort of appallingly ordinary. And this is the thing that those people running these giant empires, if you really sit down and you talk to them, most of them are quite ordinary. A lot of them have bad information. That's the other thing that's kind of shocking. And of course, if you ever go on X, I mean, Elon Musk has like nothing but bad information. I mean, almost everything he says is wrong. And some of it is deliberate and some of it is just being clueless and believing any random thing that some stranger tells him that kind of comports with his sort of post-apartheid worldview. So there are so many things we could pick apart here, but they're all connected, and they all have to do with this idea of why the leadership has to move into a bunker.
It makes me nervous because none of them want to live in a bunker. We call it a bunker. It is a bunker, but it's not what we think about World War II, that kind of bunker. It's a beautiful, lovely, like in a Netflix movie or science fiction or Black Mirror, it's going to be pretty fancy in there, but they're in a gated community with a wall and more walls and lots of people with guns standing outside. And, you feel safer, but what are you, and this is the question that we were talking about, Russ, is what possibly could you be planning where you think that's necessary? Because it's not necessary at the moment, but it will be necessary in the future. You're not moving in for a week. It's not a hotel. You're relocating onto military bases as if you're Pinochet. Well, no, even he stayed in the presidential palace. This is weird. I mean, Viktor Orban lives in a palace. I don't know any Western government that lives in a military bunker, except maybe the Germans in World War II at the end.
Yeah, and as you point out, and it's a great point, is that they're not just moving in there for a week. They're not moving in there for a month. I mean, these people are, as far as I know, they're selling their houses, and this is their main move. They're going to live there until such time as they are returned to the private sector, I assume. And the question is, how long are they going to be there? And they seem to be interested in finding a way to, well, first of all, have control of Congress for at least 2 more years, and figuring out right now what to do about 2028. I'm writing a bit about it in my next column, which, by the way, if I could just mention, appears on our website, Who, What, Why. It also appears, if you prefer Substack, I do it under something called Going Deep with Russ Baker, and that comes out usually every Sunday. I talk a little bit about that. There are quite a few people, starting with Steve Bannon, who are openly now cheering the idea of suppressing the election. In other words, they're saying, do it, do it, do it. How fast can you do it? So this has happened only in the last week or two. In other words, we've gone from basically denials that is the intent to, on the one hand, the Save America, all we're trying to do is make sure that, illegal people, criminal people don't vote, which, as we know, there is, why we write about this all the time. There is no evidence of almost anything on that front. So they have a false casus belli on the one hand, but on the other, they have a lot of their allies are openly saying, this is great. Let's steal the election. And again, to your point about CBS and so on, media will do its best to try to cover it, but we've never been here before. We have never been in a situation like this before. And as your very savvy listener pointed out, executive orders, we've never been there before. either. We've never been any of these places before, and we frankly are not equipped. We don't even know what to do about it.
Russ Baker, we're going to continue for just a second, finish up. We're going to jump a little bit on the Epstein thing. Not that anyone hungers or lusts for that, but it's relevant because it does tend to motivate that 1/3 that will follow His Excellency in whatever direction he goes. And this is the access point to at least disrupting things. We're also going to take a look at pay for play pardons, how you can use social media like Instagram to get some of the worst people in the world to get pardons from the president because, well, social media matters, at least we're told. We're talking to Russ Baker. We will continue in just a tick.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
Call 877-406-5860. That's 877-406-5860. Call 877-406-5860. That's 877-406-5860. Call us right now.
Harrison Files.
And it is the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome. Glad to have you back. By the way, live video streaming on YouTube, Substack, everything with a chip and a signal. You can simply Google Carrie Harrison Substack or Carrie Harrison YouTube or a shortcut at kpfk.net. And don't forget our newsletter with a transcript of this entire show. You're going to want to read it because it's filled with more stuff than anybody can remember, including me, plus stuff we won't be able to say on the radio, cannot say on the radio, but I will put it in the newsletter. And that's at Carrie, C-A-R-Y, Harrison.com or GoHarrison.com. Talking right now to Russ Baker, investigative journalist and founder of Who, What, Why. Back in the days of something called journalism, we were always taught to cover who, what, and why. Yes, that's why it's called that. Journalism. And he's one of the few people in American media have been asking those uncomfortable questions long before uncomfortable became the only questions left to ask. We're talking about the leadership having moved into bunkers, not short term, not like a hotel for 2 nights, relocated into bunkers. And we're going to take now a look at pay to play pardons and Epstein. Russ Baker, glad to have you back. Let's talk a little bit about Epstein files dropping new material regularly. And without going into what you can't say yet, are the files that are surfacing consistent with what serious investigators already believed? Or is there material that surprised even the people who've been on this story the longest?
First of all, let me say, and I work on books at the same time. I do these historical books that take many, many years. And I do a huge amount of looking at releases. I looked at the JFK files, the JFK assassination files, millions of records out there and so on. The Epstein thing is becoming like that. There's so much there that even some of our top name journalists are no longer actually having to go out and try to break a story by developing sources. They just have to find a way to look through this mountain of documents. And people are quickly trying to rig up, AI and software and get teams together to figure out a way to go through all this stuff. It's pretty mind-boggling, Carrie. And who, why we don't have the resources to compete with those large places, so we have to kind of poke around a little bit, do keyword searches. But boy, it's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, to me, honestly, the story that I don't see coming out is. This goes to my point about a lot of some of the tech bros and the finance people and the social media kings and so on, and how a lot of them just aren't that impressive when you get to know them. And this is another thing about Epstein is, they all talk about that he was this master criminal. He was, people say he was a Mossad's top agent or something. I don't buy a lot of that stuff. If you actually read this stuff, he seems like an idiot. And maybe this is the headline: Epstein was an idiot. It's how come, Hawking and all these great, Noam Chomsky, everybody, how come they were all hanging out with this guy who clearly is an idiot and a buffoon? He can't spell, he can't write. Seems like he can't even think very well. And they're going to him for, financial advice. He's introducing people all over the world. To me, in addition to all the stuff we rightfully should be looking at, which is about the victims and the horrific things that took place, there's this other story, which is kind of about how power works and how power fraternizes.
Yeah. And to Chomsky's defense, because it's just instinct, but MIT needed funding, and you send in the big gun to make nice and break bread. So they weren't chums. Chomsky never met any of the girls. There was no interest in that area, but it was about securing funding, because in America, our universities operate at the pleasure of funding. It's not Europe, where they're just funded and you get to go for free and walk out a genius. So unfortunately, some of our better people end up in the crosshairs of this thing. I know a guy who is his, no, this is not like, I know a guy who knows, it's not anecdotal. He was his personal trainer for 5 years, slept at his house, worked with him, and he's looking to come out on what exactly happened there. So that's another show for another time.
Yeah.
It is so interesting. But let's finish a little bit, Russ Baker, with the CPB and ICE surveillance. ICE now being in the airports, which is maybe a little scary to people, because if they've been at a protest or written something naughty on Facebook, now instead of TSA just making sure that you don't have a jail sentence or are on a list to be arrested, but if you've said something against the administration, ICE can flag you, pull you aside, and take pictures of you with their cell phone, which puts you in an entirely different permanent database, and or arrest you and or deport you. They're asking for more money to be able to use advertising that's in all your apps that tell you exactly where you're standing, exactly when, exactly where. How far along is this architecture? And critically, how reversible is it once it's normalized?
Yeah, it's a very important issue. Again, hasn't gotten appropriate attention. The Customs and Border Protection are working with the online advertising industry, and they are obtaining data on people's movements. And it's supposedly, the idea is to try to find undocumented people, track them down. But the fact is, of course, once you hand this sort of thing over to elements of the security services of the federal government, it can be used toward anybody, including dissenters. And that, I think, is just a huge problem. The online advertising industry is very minimally regulated, and so there aren't a lot of limitations on what it does, how it collects, and how it deploys information, who it sells it to. Obviously, there's a huge opportunity. Maybe your listeners can ping their elected officials to see what they're doing about this, because this is a real can of worms. And they're asking for more and more. And now they want to be able to monitor our phones as we move around. So you mentioned social media. That's our social media posts, but it's everything, right? And you pretty much have no idea what that is. If you're using any kind of a device, and people listening to this show, they probably may be watching or listening to it on a phone. So we're all on devices. And this is really a slippery slope here. Very, very dangerous.
Last question, Russ Baker, and I appreciate your staying on this long, but this is an intensive university level lesson snapshot of where we're all standing today. So I'm going to ask this straight for someone who's been spending their career documenting the erosion of democratic accountability as you have. What does the picture look like from where you're standing right now? Not the political horse race picture, but the structural picture. How far in are we?
Yeah, I think about that every day, multiple times a day. I don't know the answer. I think things are still reversible. To quote a friend, as he said to me the other day, he said, "I am not an optimist, but I am hopeful." So that's how I'm going to frame that. I'm not an optimist about this, but I am hopeful that many things are reversible. Obviously, in some areas, like the damage to the environment, the reversal would only take a few million years or something like that. Some of the other things like the executive orders and so on may be instantly reversible, and probably everything else is somewhere in between. Would be great to have some monitor of all of these indices. Wouldn't that be great? Some organization, some entity, Democratic Party, maybe if they're looking for something useful to do, they could do that, is provide the public with a weekly or even daily snapshot of where we are in terms of losing our freedoms, our lives, and our world across the board.
Well, there's an idea that I think 99% of people would be on board with. Even Republicans would love to have such a website. What could be more fun to watch? And everyone's got skin in the game, no matter who you are. So I like this idea. And there are plenty of powerful Democrats listening right now. And let's hope that that's an inspiring little fire poker to stick in the fanny of possibility. I want to thank you very much, my friend, Russ Baker, for having joined us today. Investigative journalist, founder of Who, What, Why. How and where do we follow you?
Sure. So our independent nonprofit news organization is called Who, What, Why. It's whowhatwhy.org. And we've got all the usual social media platforms. And then I also write on Substack as Real Russ Baker. Real Russ Baker on Substack, also Going Deep with Russ Baker on Substack.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Quick comment coming up on Facebook as a comment. Love your show. Your guest says we've never been here before, but concerning the theft of voting, oppressive policing, and diminished rights, many populations have been for decades. True. We've never seen it, though, acute and like right in our face. It's always been denied. Now it's being celebrated. This is, I think, the really twisted, perverse side of it. But let's open up the phones. Let's let you and others call in right now. Carrie Harrison with you. This is the Carrie Harrison Files. Coming up, I'm going to ask you a question that nobody on FM radio is asking today. Somewhere between that can't be real and yeah, I heard about that. Somewhere between that, you stopped being shocked. And I want to know exactly what happened. I want that moment. I want the story. The lines are open right now, right after this. So don't rehearse it. Don't clean it up. Just give it to me straight. Tell me the truth. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines or your Harrison text line. Brand new. 310-737-TALK. 310-737-TALK. This is the Carrie Harrison Files. We're back in a flash. And so are you.
Smells like fish.
Tastes like chocolate.
It's the Carrie Harrison Files. CarrieHarrison.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.
The Carrie Harrison Files, carrieharrison.com, live streaming right now on Substack, YouTube, Instagram, anything with a chip and a signal. Simply Google Carrie Harrison, C-A-R-Y, Harrison.com, and or it's whatever it's called, the Carrie Harrison Files. I don't know anymore. It's all so complicated. But reading the comments that those of you who are like maybe under the age of 30 who are watching video streams, we love you. We love being able to bring young, vibrant people into FM radio. It keeps the whole thing balanced from an entire age spectrum, which keeps it digital and analog at the same time. Wow. Good for all of us that we can kumbaya in this smart way. So here's what I want to know. And I'm not asking rhetorically. I'm asking you right now, and I'm asking you personally. At what point does it stop being a conspiracy theory and start being, Tuesday? Because I've been doing this long enough to remember when you could say the government is tracking your movements through your phone and get laughed off the air. Tinfoil hat, paranoid, unhinged. Yeah, that was 8 years ago. Today, it's a budget line item. Customs and Border Protection, your tax dollars, your agency is literally contracting with the online advertising industry to pull real-time location data off of your apps, off of your fitness tracker, off of your dating profile, off of your video game. And I'm talking to people watching the video as a live stream, your video game, all of it, pinging your coordinates back to a federal database. And the only reason you agreed to it is because you clicked accept on the terms and service agreement that was 37 pages long and written by a lawyer who simply hates you. Yes. And here's the part that should be ringing your phone off the hook right now. ICE is already ahead of CPB on this. That's your border protection. ICE, who's sitting in your airport right now, waiting for you to try to get on that plane. They have filed documents explicitly requesting more of this data, not less. More. And nobody's stopping them. Not a court, not a committee, not a strongly worded press release from Chuckles Schumer. Now there's a man who knows how to fight. He can walk up in a suit, pull his reading glasses down to the end of his nose, clutch his tie, and say he's terribly disappointed. Well, Chuck, we're terribly disappointed in you.
Bing, boom.
Wow. Nothing. Crickets that they want more money. So I want to hear from you. I want to know, where's your line in the sand? Because we've been having this argument in the abstract for 20 years, and enough of the abstract. Enough. Let's have specific. I want to know, what does it take? What is the thing that makes you pick up this phone and say, enough, enough? Is it the cabinet moving on to military bases? Is it like that for you? Because Harvard's Stephen Levitsky, who's a man who's literally written the book on how democracies die, which I understand is a growth industry, he'll tell you that government officials retreating into military fortifications is not a democratic behavior pattern. That's the tell. That's the behavioral fingerprint of a government that either expects to be besieged or is planning something that will cause it to be besieged. Does that do it for you? Or is it the pardons? Is it the nursing home operator, a man whose facility allegedly housed a resident with maggot-infested wounds who died in his own waste? That guy walking out of prison because a network of paid Instagram influencers hustled his imperial kumquat to grant this guy's release. Is it that one? Is that the line? Because I'll tell you what, if that story had broken during any prior administration of either party, it would have been the only story for 6 full weeks. But now, in this country, at this era, it ran for a day, maybe a day and a half, and then it fizzled. Just fizzled. That's it. Gone. Or maybe it's CBS News. You probably remember that as a historical artifact, grew up with it. I remember being handed a microphone by Mike Wallace when I was super young. It was in Chicago at WMAQ. They were grooming me to be the next Paul Harvey. They didn't understand that I and Paul did not have the same politics, which is why I am not the next Paul Harvey. But they wanted it. And this guy gave me a ceremonial microphone. CBS News. Is it that it's now gone? CBS News Radio? And CBS News covering the war has the lowest ratings of anything. Maybe that's what's getting you. Maybe you remember when the evening news was the evening news, when it meant something, when people filed live from the Berlin Wall coming down and the dictators being dragged out of their palaces. And now this flagship broadcast can't even crack 4 million viewers during an active war. Not because the war isn't happening, but because the audience doesn't trust the network to tell them the truth about it. And that one keeps me up at night. Seriously. Because when the press fails, look at that. I said seriously, and look at what my iPhone, seriously. Huh. Siri comes to life. You see? You see? When the press fails, the only people left asking questions are the people you're asking questions about. And that's why a feedback loop that ends exactly one way is a problem for us. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I already got a full board. Throw out the numbers anyway. Pick up the phone, 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Or you can use your new Harrison text line. Ooh, texting. And I'm going to keep these and read them next week, by the way. There's so many juicy ones. Some of you leave voicemails on there. Awesome. Going to play them next week. 310-737-TALK. 310-737-TALK. So tell me what your line is. Tell me what you've watched happen you can't explain away. Tell me what you've stopped explaining away. Tell me if you think any of this is actually as bad as it looks. Okay? And unlike the Secretary of Defense, you don't live on a military base yet. Let's go to Carlos from Carson. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome. Hello, Carson. Carlos from Carson. Carlos. All right, there we go. We're on, my friend.
I started having conspiracy theories of my own way back 30, 40 years ago, because I see it in all aspects of life. I see it right now in the collusion between the left and right to keep the stoppage, government stoppage ongoing so we can have chaos, because you see, New World Order that controls these parties thrives on chaos. I see it in Biden allowing 300,000 or 500,000 people, whatever amount of aliens come in, and on purpose setting the stage for Trump's raids, ICE raids, which creates more chaos. I see it in our presence in the Middle East, where we're going to be sending troops into Iran, another Vietnam, or probably worse. You know, I see it in all aspects of our life, in the surveillance, the enhancement of surveillance, like you were just describing. You know, I mean, it's rampant. It's all over. And so I have no doubt whatsoever there are huge conspiracies being sponsored by what I call the New World Order, the Illuminati, using both parties colluding to keep us under their control, and that's what's happening. And everywhere you look, in the medical industry, I see the scaling down of services. Why? Because they want to kill people. They want to create chaos.
I appreciate your call, Carlos. I am not going to comment on calls because this is your chance to say where the line is and what these things are. So no debate here. I just want this information. Let's go next to Harold in Santa Barbara. You're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
Thank you. I got to catch my breath. As always, you're making me laugh, and I already lost my train of thought, or what I call I had a Trump moment. But what turned me around was the first time. There's two incidents, and I'd like to describe each one. The first one was when a Redlands police officer pulled his gun on me and pointed on me, and I told him, "You got to be freaking kidding me." Okay, do it. The second time was when they burned my mother's house, and there's a fire hydrant directly in front of my mother's house, and they connected to another fire hydrant that was a full block away. And I tell you, it is Comedy Central. These guys are clowns. They're stupid. You know, internationally, they already, the guys coming home from the other forever war, the first thing they said was, hell, it's not the enemy that's killing. We're killing each other. Same thing as Nam. Same thing's happening on the naval aircraft carrier. They don't want to go to war. They already don't get along. Heck, I got friends I went to school with at UCR that made their living as psychologists doing research for Navy to see if the people would get along. Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Very much appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not going to comment on the calls because it's your chance to point out where's the line, where has this become real, and what was the moment where that happened. 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines, 818-985-5735, or your Harrison text line. You can even leave a voicemail on there or just simply text 737-TALK. That's 310-737-TALK, 310-737-TALK. Let's next go to Dave. Dave, you're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
Hi. I tell you what, I'm 75 years old, so I went through I was in high school through Vietnam, right? I was one of the weirdos. I had a shortwave radio, right? So I could hear Cuba, Russia, China. I got to hear the different viewpoints, which I think is hugely important. But you know, what scares me is like the satellite stuff. All the stuff that's out there now is very few. There's one that's called POTUS, that's like a middle channel on satellite radio that's sort of in the middle, you know. Yeah. But they're either all the way to the right or all the way to the left, and I'm like, somewhere in between, I think, is where the answer is. The other day, I was listening to one of these guys on, I don't know, his name's Jesse Kelly's his name. Anyway, he's got a right-wing show, you know, and he's saying, women shouldn't have the right to vote. I was sitting there going, I couldn't believe my ears, you know? I couldn't believe my ears.
Well, you know, when you're here, I said I wasn't going to comment. So let's just say I made a terminological inexactitude. I'll comment light. You know, when the top person in the United States of America, who happens to occupy the White House, who's supposed to be the smartest man who ever lived, holding 12,500 multi-tipped thermonuclear warheads, able to change the world, make economies go up and down, really runs everything. When he says what's right and what's wrong and what degree, the average person now has permission to do whatever they're told they're allowed to do. So if women shouldn't vote, then a lot of guys are going to go, finally, I can shut my wife up and my daughter. Thank God, over 75% of us actually are upright creatures. We're not in our knuckles. We shave and we bathe habitually. So as long as that keeps happening, there is hope in the world. I appreciate your call, my friend, very much. We'll go to James from Venice. James, you're on the Carrie Harrison Files. Welcome.
Good morning, Carrie. I have two concerns. The first one is, did you hear the talk by Senator Whitehouse gave before the U.S. Senate on the 5th of March?
Help me out. I'm like a C-SPAN junkie, so focus this one for us.
Senator Whitehouse gave at least a 30-minute talk on the complicity or the collusion between Trump and Putin and Epstein, and how the three are all tied together. This was before the U.S. Senate. I heard it Wednesday on alternative radio, who can be reached at 1-800-444-1977, David Barsamian, and it is devastating. And my second concern is, I believe Voice of America has been deleted by the Trump administration.
Yes.
And did those countries behind the Iron Curtain, did they need shortwave radios to receive Voice of America? Do you know?
It was actually on AM, regular AM. It was on shortwave, and it was on a few, just a few tiny, like low-powered FMs. But generally, it was an easy-to-receive AM signal because that's the era in which it started, going back to the Cold War, and able to reach everyone. And most people had AMs. And then when FMs came, it dotted around on there. It was then streaming for the last number of years, too. So it was ubiquitous. Anybody could get it anywhere, but it had to go away. Because
I'm wondering if we Americans could start a similar service up in Canada that could reach people who no longer are going to have public radio stations. Could we fund a Canadian broadcast of Radio Free Canada, or whatever you wanted to call it, to let the American public know what's going on? KPFK is great, but it's not reaching everybody.
Yeah, we could do that. The issue, as I see it, is if it's coming from abroad, it could be immediately called a foreign power and blocked. The technology is there to block it. What we should do is undergird something that we already have. We've got the strongest FM west of the Mississippi at 212,000 watts. And it's that strong because during the Cold War, they thought if there was a nuclear attack, people need to hear this signal wherever they are living. We've already got it. We've got streaming. We just haven't, let's just face it, we could do a lot more. So your idea is right. Let's take what we've got, analog and digital. I do the video streaming. I don't think anyone else does, but they all could do it. I'd be happy to help. I know you would. Let's talk about this more because you're absolutely right. When we started Air America, and this is, we're running out of time, 10 years ago, I was doing Air America, and that was the idea, was to have an independent voice to talk about alternative issues because everything had been taken over. And it worked for a while until the corruption killed it. But you're right on, my friend. You are right on, James. I love this idea. Anybody else who has ideas on this, text me at 310-737-TALK, 310-737-TALK, and let's make this happen. Little quick key over on YouTube right now, Little Marco and Spam Bondi. The Cuban mafia Castro dumped into Miami. Now the Trump cabinet, Ted Cruz's dad was one of the JFK hitmen, according to Trump in 2015. DeSantis is also a Cuban mafia descendant. Could be. Don't have time to research that in 12 seconds. But I thank you for joining me today. And thank you so much for calling in. These are acts of bravery for all of us. And thank you, Will, for putting up the KPFK logo when we take the call so we can see what's going on. And thank you, Goddess Renee, for being who you are and directing this show. And thank you, the listener, you. Mwah! And I look forward to seeing you next week at this time.
Listen, well, it's still legal. The Carrie Harrison Files. CarrieHarrison.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? Well, you call low-cost airlines because they specialize in cheap flights, in discount hotel rooms, in cheap car rentals, and with the best price guarantee. Often 75% off. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795. 901-235-1795.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield.
Best of all, you'll get access to CarShield's concierge service, who can even help you find a mechanic near you.
They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
CarShield has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau and was voted America's most trusted auto protection company. It's time to call CarShield now. Call 800-786-8390. 800-786-8390. Call 800-786-8390.